And it's me, some of my old Paul friends, welcoming you to Starfleet Universe on call. And tonight, well, Barry's here. And of course, we have Dave, and I'm sure Chris will show up in the chat room over here on Twitch because he's usually around. And I know Iggy a lot of times is around too. So, I will introduce the one, the only, the Barry Kirk. How you doing, Barry?
Hey there, hey there.
Long time no see.
I'm
Or
doing
here.
good.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we just played, what was it, like a month ago?
It was last month. It was
Okay.
about a month ago.
Okay. I want to make sure I got it right.
I've been. It was shortly after that, about a week after that, I came out to California. It was like February 1st or 2nd. I came out here, and I've been out in California ever since. And I don't get home for a while because even now, because I have my 4 days off. Instead of flying home, I'm flying up to my daughter since I'm already on the West Coast.
Right, right.
And I go fly straight from there to my next job site in Georgia.
Other side of the country.
Quite literally diagonally across it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Hey, Iggy.
And then, but I'm only there for 4 days and I go home.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'm sure your wife would be happy to see you.
While I was out, yeah, one can only hope. Nah, yeah. And while I was out here, I bought a couple of games because there's a whole group of people, and haven't gotten to play either one of them. But I know my daughter is big into board games, so when I go up to visit her, they'll get used. Well, at least one of them will. So I got Wingspan. I don't know if you saw. Did you play that one?
No, I haven't played Wingspan, no.
Oh, Wingspan's freaking awesome. It's put out by the same company, Stonemeyer, that put out Scythe. But it's the cards are really pretty. And then the other one is hold the box out. Which is not unboxed yet. Dominant Species.
So, Iggy, you didn't really.
I don't know if you played that.
Yeah, Iggy, you played Wingspan once. Really wasn't that you weren't impressed or just didn't like it?
What's that?
Iggy in the Twitch chat room said he played it once and he said that was enough, which gives me the impression that he didn't really like the game that much.
Okay.
Fair enough.
The other one's Dominant Species.
That I've heard about. I've never played Dominant Species, but I have heard about it, and I'm pretty sure I haven't played it. I've seen it. I think I've seen it played. I might have played it myself.
Yeah. I think the last person to bring it in was what's his name?
Wasn't it
Eric?
Eric?
The guy who always wins.
Eric.
Eric, that's it. Yeah, he brought that one in.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen Eric.
Yeah, my wife was there. It was the only time she's ever been there, and she actually played it and won her first game, which was a 6-player game.
Wow. Okay. Just let you know, Iggy also played Dominant Species, and again, he didn't like it. So.
Okay.
Well, that means
Starfleet Battles.
Right. It's not his taste in games. That's all. You know.
Yeah. It's not that. It's more of a Euro game. Well, I'm not sure about dominant speed. Well, I guess it's action based.
Understood. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to talk? Go. I'm sorry.
Last weekend I had the day off on Sunday, so we went out to. There's a museum not far from here, March Air Base. They have an air museum. That was really cool. I mean, it doesn't look like much at first, but then you start looking, it's like, holy crap. And they had probably 50, 60 aircraft out there, you know, and just about every single model of military aircraft used in World War II through, well, not the really modern stuff, but
right.
Yeah, I don't think they had anything more advanced than an F-15.
Okay, do they have an A-10 Warhog?
No, they didn't have that. They had that was about the only other thing they didn't have, an A-10. Okay. They had an SR-71.
Oh, wow.
They had a B-52. They had
any U-2s?
F-14. They had what's that?
Any U-2s?
No U-2s.
Okay.
Man, you're striking out.
I know. This is what I'm interested in because I really like the A-10 Warthogs. I think they're yes, they're kind of bulky airplanes, but I like that. I like that design. You know, obviously it's meant for ground support. You know, and the U-2s, of course, they're still used today as spy planes. You know, higher in the upper atmosphere there.
Well, the U-2 predated the SR-71.
Oh yeah,
and the problem with the U-2 was that it was too slow and too low, and that's how one got shot down.
Right.
And missiles are so much more capable these days than when the U-2 came out in the early 60s. I don't think a U-2 would be survivable used as a spy plane if it has to face anti-aircraft.
Yeah, well, it's still used today. That's my understanding.
We have drones. We have drones for spy planes. I mean, I don't know. The SR-71 was a successor to the U-2, and that's already been, it's out of service. Although I suspect the SR-71's a lot more expensive to maintain and fly.
Yeah, and Lord knows the biggest issue with the SR-71s, well, not real issue, but when you first were getting it off the ground, you were just leaking. Was you leaking fuel or leaking something else? Because it had to be fuel. Yeah, I thought it was fuel. Until it got up in the air and actually got high enough. You know.
Well, it got hot enough that the metal surfaces expand. But that's why they were designed to be refueled in flight, because it got up to certain speed, and it got off the ground. It got to 30,000 feet. It docked with the tanker and topped off the tanks, and then went going wherever it was going. Probably took half the tank just to get off the ground.
Right. That was the biggest issue, but it flew really fast.
Yes, it did. Mach 3.2.
Yeah, currently it
and
will.
It could cruise.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia site and it says it can cruise at 70,000 feet.
Yeah. And Mach 3 plus.
I'm talking about the U2s. The U2s can fly up to 70,000 feet. At least the current ones.
Mm.
So.
Which is anti-aircraft can hit it at that altitude.
Yeah, well, that means you can't do it in hostile territory.
Yeah. Yeah. But they also had a couple of replicas of the Wright brothers plane, and the best part was a lot of the tour guides and museum curators and people that were the staff were all retired pilots from Vietnam and Korea.
Well, Chris, the problem with satellites versus U-2s is basically satellites are not geosynchronous. It's for all locations. So they have windows where they actually can take pictures. That's my understanding.
Yeah, that is true. Right. But why not send a drone, which can be stealthier, and if you get shot down, oh well, you didn't lose a pilot.
Agreed.
And you can even tell the drone, you can put a self-destruct on it so that, okay, it's gotten shot down, it's going down, hit the self-destruct.
Yeah, the thing that had an avionics refresh in 2020. In February 2020, the flight test and initial installation of the new electro-optical reconnaissance systems were completed. So they're still used today.
Interesting.
Network upgrades are scheduled to complete by 2022, basically this year. And like awareness plan to refresh the U-2 sensors and other electronic systems to act as a node on the advanced battle management system now under development. So yeah, they're still used for U-2s. But anyhow, after we discuss the flying aircraft, get into something a little less real. Something related to Starfleet battles. Or Starfleet...
I got a
yes.
question about Starfleet battles.
Okay, shoot.
So, I'm getting a call. Can I come back to talk to you in a few seconds?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, he left the meeting. Okay, that's the way he didn't want to do it. Okay, that's great. Makes it easier for me. I don't have to mute him. Okay, but anyway, I know what we've been doing is we've been going through the rules for SFB as of late, and I with Barry on, we might do that. We might not do that because we ended up, I think if I recall correctly, it was like the middle of section E, with we were talking about the direct fire weapons, which was interesting. I know we still have to go back and talk about section D, which is actually, combat. Let me look at this. Yeah, including look at this. Oh, this is TAC and I'm looking at the section for TAC and Tel. Yeah, D17 TAC and Tel. Commander. It's called Commander's Level, and it is optional. Big surprise. Actually, okay. I'm gonna go back on that. Most people who've ever played Starfleet Battles and read these rules, when it comes to TAC and Tel, TAC and Tel is incredible. It's a neat system. Yeah, I understand, Mike. I hadn't planned on. I might go to this, the D section, but I was going through the direct fire weapons first before I came to the combat section, i.e. the systems that you can use to have combat. Though obviously there's some systems listed in the D sections like the power absorber, shields, things like that. But the one thing about TAC Intel, I just want to mention this real quick. That is that it's one of those things that computers that are designed to do. Now, oh man, how long has it been now? Over 10 years ago, I would say. Somebody requested that I actually implement TAC Intel in SFB Online, which, to be honest, is probably be a great thing. My only question is, and here's the thing, how many, if I implemented in SFB Online, how many people would actually use it? You know, and the rules are, as Chris mentions, they are insane. Because procedure of different tech levels. You got first, you have A, which is just a class definition. The specific hex location of an object is known, just that there's something there. Size class of object is also known, whereas a drone, a ship, things like that. Unvoided wild weasels are considered a second image of a given ship. So basically, it's as if you had two ships. So which is, if you really think about it, that's a very interesting. Now, if you look at the information chart, TAC Intel level A for scouts is 150 hexes. For a ship, it's 100 hexes. For PF or SWAC, it's 75. For MRS, PF, or EWF, it's all the way out to range 50. Manned shuttle is 35, and probe drone is 30. So, B for ships is okay. If you're at range 30, if you're range 40, as in most of the time when you're on a map, which is really hard to get outside of range 40. You can do it, but it's kind of crazy. A ship of range 40, which is level C. Now, level C, is classification definition. You know the general hull type, such as the Klingon D class, Zinti frigate, etc. Look at the hull types in Annex number 10. Fighter can be distinguished as different from non-combat shuttles, and also you can actually detect transport activity. So, then you get into a range 30 of a ship. And this is, this first turn. You're there, and for TAC Intel level of D, you got course, whole description. Okay, you got certain subtypes are known. For example, such as the D7, D6M, and the D6V, which have substantial outward modifications. Obviously, a D6V, in case you don't know what it is, that's actually the D6 carrier, and because it's a carrier, it has a larger shuttle section on the ship, so it's kind of an outward actual modification to the actual ship itself, and that's why it can easily be told. The terminal category, A, B, C, D. Conglomerate ships, like the TK5, OK6, can be distinguished, but variants of such ships cannot be distinguished from each other. So minor, I'm assuming like a D6, a regular D6 and a D6D. I'm not sure that's actually, that shouldn't be traceable. So until you get to level E, where you can see at level E, that's when you see the heavy weapons and seeking weapons launch can be counted. as into specific mounts. I'm just wondering if we can see. Oh, okay. Course weapon discrimination is until F. F is range 16 for ships, 24 for scout. But then you have, of course, what happens is you have long time tac intel, so multi-turn tac intel, in which case you can upgrade the level of definition, level of tac intel that you actually have on the ships. Given all that is, and you have to do that, you have to trace it for each ship. So that's obviously something that can easily, the tracking can be done easily by a computer. But the tough part, I always thought about the tac intel, the tough part about implementing that in SFB Online was this. And that is to be able to load up a ship, have other people can't see what kind of ship you have. It's basically, you say, oh, it's a it's a ship. Or possibly you just, have it so it's empty. And until you get to a certain tac intel, you actually can see, you have to say, okay, this is a D7. So you have to actually just show text information. And I forget. Yeah. So it gets really tough to keep track of that, and then not just tracking. Like I said, with SFB Online wouldn't be that hard. It would be the presentation of the material, so that using the interface and limiting the presentation of the material. Because if I recall correctly, I remember thinking about this many years ago, and one of those things with TAC Intel itself was the whole issue of seeing. Basically, you have to be able to show it was a D6 or something like that. And I was thinking about, you want to show like the outline of the ship, which makes it very difficult, because that means you can't show the specific boxes. You have to be able to hide those specific boxes, because initially, this is way back when, it was not the third gen definitions where it actually draws a box. Previously, it's just that you told the client where the boxes were, it would fill in the boxes. Which is a heck of a lot easier. And then even that option rule has another option rule within it, which is secret damage, which is, again, and of course we have deceptions, which is another optional rule. So the whole idea is you have dummy weapons, you reduce your power signature. Shields, you can reduce your shields so that you look like a yeah, that was one of those ones that that's in this section. This is in section D. I think it was D23, was it? Let me just look at it real quick, because I know D20 is I was wrong. Not 23. It's D22. It's energy balance due to damage, which is optional. And that's when a ship receives damage, its power output may be reduced. This may require a player to modify his energy allocation plans to account for the power that is no longer there. This rule provides greater realism at a considerable cost and complexity. As which the ships which are heavily damaged cannot continue, i.e., as with this rule, to move at high speed and fire weapons for the remainder of the turn. Using this rule, considerable affect the play of the game. Hitting an enemy before he can hit you will become more important, as any power loss will reduce his firepower immediately. Hitting him early in the turn, when there's little expended power to absorb losses, will become critical. Additionally, ships trying to escape from a snare will be slowed down, and more of them will be caught and destroyed. Players are cautioned to experiment with this rule in several scenarios before adding it to a campaign. And I say amen. David was mentioning that he said, "Oh, my calculator would walk out laughing." Yeah, I'd say that's apropos, because Lord knows, holy cow. I'm not gonna go through the rules. I just brought it up because of Chris mentioned it. With attack intel and energy balance due to damage together, which energy balance due to damage is insane. It's truly an insane optional rule. Another, and this one has real effect. I kind of like the idea, and at the same time, and Lord knows it definitely changes the whole feel of the game. Because basically what you're doing is if you hit a ship early in the turn, all of a sudden a ship that might have been moving 20 and he was going to basically you hit him early because he's going to escape. He's going to like speed 20. He announces speed 20. So, you do your battle pass, you hit him. He's going speed 20. All of a sudden, he has to do damage, energy balance due to damage. And it's possible now he's going to be reduced to speed 10. So he's not going to be running away. In which case, as mentioned, more ships will be caught, more ships will be destroyed. So it completely changed, and weapons that he might have had charged, like a photon torpedo, which he was waiting for you to fire, and then he's going to retaliate. A couple impulses later. Well, if you have energy balance. If you're doing energy balance due to damage, it's possible that you have to discharge those weapons to make up for the energy balance. All depends on how much energy you lose. It really makes things a heck of a lot harder. In this case, it's not speed is life, because it is. It's still kind of speed is life. But more to the point, when you when you add this rule into your play, at that point, what happens is that whoever hits wins. Now, there's one dynamic that really hits home, which is the whole idea of Me Too firing. If this rule is in place, you have to be really cognizant of Me Too firing, because of the person who is being fired upon. Okay, I said you announce your fire. And that person might not have been originally going to announce fire, but he decides you're firing, so he's got to fire. He has no choice. He's got to fire, because of if he doesn't fire, he might not. It's not just the weapons will be blown off the ship. Because invariably, yes, will you take some weapons damage? Yes. If you got internals, yes, you'll lose some weapons. One big volley, what? You would lose around a maximum, I think it's around, around 6. I think I got that right. Because you get one drone hit, one torp hit, 4 phaser hits. And I can't remember I don't think there's any other, overall, I'm not talking about the stranger ones, which is like the Dizzy Debs, which get hit on flag bridge. But normal weapons. You're gonna max out around 6 per volley. So yes, you'll lose 6 weapons, but in the case of damage, energy balance due to damage, you might not lose more than 6 weapons, but you'll be losing the ability to fire more than 6 weapons. So, it's one of those things that's just totally and utterly insane. Oh, okay. Jeez. If I'm not careful, I'm going to... Wow. Forgot about that one. I'm scrolling to get to my section, and I hit another one, which is, okay, there's this one, and okay, where's the other one? Okay, I don't see it. I know it's in here. They I was looking at D24. D24 is Andromedan critical hits, which is a little different than regular critical hits, and of course it's optional. To create, here's the quote from the beginning of the rule. To increase the excitement of particular tense scenarios, players may wish to include the possibility of critical hits. Actually, it quotes it, which is Rule D8.0. If they do so, the Andromedan ships, because of their unique features, require special handling. The following rules are the Andromedan version of D8.0 critical hit rules. Both D.8 and D24 must be used or neither. Standard thing, and then of course you have the critical hit rolls. 2, active fire control, big surprise. 3, battery failure. This is a critical. Andromedans cannot access the batteries for any reason. No power can be added or taken from the batteries. This is a big issue. No power can be. No power currently stored in the battery is lost. Note that this is different from the result of the galactic powers. That's a roll of a 3. Transportation failure. Transporter failure is for a roll of 4. Transporters can't be used until required. This is a result different from the galactic power ship. Big surprise. But note that this will prevent motherships from recovering their satellite ships. Yeah, that's the big issue. Number 5, power failure in the labs. Again, no. 6 through 8, no critical hit. Number 9 is tractor beam breakdown. Tractor beams cannot be used until repaired. All existing tractor links are released. This could cause docking to be broken. Ships inside the hangar will not be effective. However, negative tractor can still be used. Okay, the result is different than ships can also cannot use the TR beams as tractors until this critical repair. This critical is repaired. I'm assuming it should be critical hit is repaired. Hatch control is damaged on the roll of 10. That's basically for laying. Yeah, agreed, Mike. The battery critical crit sounds lethal, and it is. I would think it would be definitely. Hatch control is jammed. That's for laying the T-bombs. Andromedans can lay out T-bombs by tossing it out of the hatch. 11 is maneuver restricted. I think it's same as galactic powers. And 12 is warp engine controls are damaged. The ship cannot use warp energy for movement. 1/2 of the output of the warp engine can be used for other purposes. The other half of power cannot be used for any purpose until repaired. Okay, I'm just going to read this real quick, which is for warp, which is D24.23. In the case of warp engine critical hit, the ship stops moving immediately. You want to talk about death? There's death. So if impulse power was allocated to movement, the ship may make one tactical maneuver during the remainder of the turn. The ship's energy allocation form must be adjusted immediately by D22.0. That's just talking about energy balance due to damage. And all power to movement may be canceled. Oof. Nasty. critical hits are just one of those things that I'll admit, it's kind of an interesting system, but it's insane. I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually played. Crap. I forgot what the RPG system was that I really liked. Darn it. I used to know it, and it's been many years since I looked at it. There's one RPG system that role playing game. In the case, just to be clear about what I'm meaning by RPG. That the whole game was centered around critical hits. And I thought it was interesting because you had different classes of critical hits. You got A, AA, B, blah, blah, blah. You had all these different kinds of critical hits in that system. No, it wasn't Traveler. It's been so long I forgot. And actually, the company that created it went out of business. I think you can still get a copy of the game. It's no longer produced. I said it's been a while. I remember I would spend it was just a normal Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. So but it had this wonderful critical hit system, which is why I loved it so much. But the issue with the critical hit system for that game was so great, because what you would do, I would sit there and read the tables for the critical hits. No, it wasn't Tunnels and Trolls. And you just read it because some of them were just freaking hilarious how they describe this. Like a critical trip, you break your leg. Or a critical failure, you cut off your arm. Or another critical might be, okay, you fall on your face and you're knocked out for the next 2 rounds. You miss so badly that you fall on the ground and you're unconscious. It was interesting, and I apologize for not remembering the name of the game. But okay. This one, I know I talked about the photon torpedoes, which were interesting. Anti-drones, I know I talked about those. MSIDs. Okay, I think that's where I ended. Some of the rest of these weapon systems are actually relatively simple. Because I already went to the beginning of the section, which is, it talks about it wasn't Dragon Quest. That's it. I'm going to stop replying about that. Okay. Actually, if you guessed it, I might just, I might. Nope. Yeah, I went through the sections talking about basically variable damage versus to hit hit or miss kind of thing, i.e., like disruptors. Disruptors are hit or miss. You can roll between 1, like 1 and 4. That range 3, or actually I think it's like range 4. But anyway, and you either hit with a disruptor or you completely miss. While phaser, you roll, like for range 3, you roll your dice, and then you roll a 1, you get something. 2, you get something, but you guaranteed something. In that case, now I know I talked about what happens with EW, where in the case of a positive EW shift, for the variable ratings for the tables, what you do is you go down the column, and if let's say you have a +2 shift and you roll a 6, you basically go down to 6, and then you add 2. Boom, boom. You go 2 columns to the right. So fusion beams, standard kind of direct fire weapon. The only problem with fusion beams is, of course, you have to let them cool down for a turn, which means they're basically a 2-turn arming weapon. You can fire them once, and then you have to wait for the next turn. You can't fire because you got to let it cool down. You can't even put energy into cooldown, if I recall correctly. All right. Okay, no, it doesn't say that. Okay, it says that if a weapon is fired, it requires 1 turn of cooling down. It cannot be. Oh no, yeah, no, it can't be armed. Yeah, I was correct. It cannot be armed. So that for that 1 full turn. So if you fire in turn 1, you can't fire or arm that fusion beam until turn 3. So that's the unique part of it. It has some specific modes. You can do an overload, which means you're doubling up the energy. You can do what's called a suicide overload, which is something that's very unique to the fusion beam weapon. And that is, you can put 7 points of energy. I know that's a lot of energy into a single fusion beam, and it will do an insane amount of damage. I think it triples. Okay, that doubles. Okay, it doubles the damage versus overloads, which is like 1.5. So it doubles the damage that gets done. I.e., at range 0, maximum amount of damage for 1 fusion beam is 26 points of damage, with a minimum of 16. Now, here's the problem with suicide overloads, is that your fusion beam goes, it pops, it's dead. And then you have to take 2 more additional internals. Now, of course, that's fine. Totally fine if you just blew up your opponent. So, there's good aspects and bad aspects to it. You can't. You can actually hold fusions, but you can't hold overloads, right? Right. Overloads can't be held. Maulers, which basically the whole idea of a mauler is that you have all this energy stored up in batteries, and then you just let it just pure energy burst going forward. Yeah, Chris. Chris is mentioning that the whole idea of a hydrant is that it has huge center hull, so that a few internals won't be a big deal. The biggest issue with hydrants is that Mizia kills them. Completely kills them. They can be completely weaponless, but they have lots of hull left. Yep, no, understood. It's called the Seventh Shield. I forget what the Andromedans. I think degradation. It's called something. It's interesting. But anyway, so energy. The Mauler is based on how much energy you put out. Now, and the thing is, for those Maulers, you have these individual packs of batteries, and you have to release all the energy from that one battery. Now, at range 1, obviously, if you look at this weapon, it's not designed for combat with a ship. It's designed for combat with a base. Range 0 to 1, you double the amount, double the damage, the amount of energy you put into the weapon, multiply by 2, and that's the amount of damage. 2 to 5 equal. You put 5 points of energy into the Mauler, it produces 5 points of damage. And 6 to 10 is half. And you round down the fractions, which is interesting by itself. So that So you put like 6 points of energy to it, you get 3 points of damage. And the firing arc is pretty narrow. It goes. Let me bring that up. Okay, I figure I will show you the firing arc chart, because in the firing arc chart you will notice that I don't see it. It should have brought it up. No, it's not coming up. Okay, I hate to do this, but don't mind me. Ignore the man behind it. That wouldn't surprise me. Chris is mentioning that he thought that the Mauler was inspired by the wave motion gun from Space Battleship Yamato. Yeah, Star Blazers. Yeah, that was a car. I love that cartoon. When they used that, I was told by a friend of mine, John Dewey's. Yeah, John Dewey's. He said basically that it was the Japanese was inspired to have that weapon from, basically us bombing them with a nuclear bomb. That whole idea, the ultimate weapon just blows everything up. Yeah, Dave, I remember. I know they did. I never looked at the game when it comes to Star Blazers. Okay, but anyway, so this is the firing arc for it. And then if you want to, you also can use alternate firing arcs. These are directed mode, which is an interesting idea by itself. But let me just give you a better view. So normal firing arc is straight ahead for the first 3 impulses, actually 4 impulses. Then you start giving additional hexes to the sides. So this is the whole arc where it actually can hit, which makes things move on. Okay. The Andromeda Maulers are cool because of the Andromeda Maulers is something that as soon as someone ever sees it, they want to kill it. Why? Because if you don't kill it, it can use the energy that's in the panels to fire it right back out to you. It's like, yikes. Yeah, the energy amount of each ship can draw from its panels during the turn is established by this rule. For example, Terminator can do 20 points of energy. Power can all be drawn in a single impulse, or it can be drawn a few points at a time, several impulses. So, it's really cool. Of course, this is the Andromedan TR beams, both the heavies and the lights, that's one thing. I've mentioned before on the podcast, which is the whole idea of for the Andromedan ship in the tournament, that I always thought it would have been a really good idea to, instead of having 2, to have 4, because of it requires more power, but also it gives a benefit to the Andromedan player in that they don't have to worry about getting one of their TR beams shot off, and then you're done. Not quite done, but it makes it really hard. If it's on the first battle pass, you're fighting an uphill battle at that point. If you are going to be firing, if it's later in after like the second battle pass, you can possibly come back if you have only one gone. But if you have both of them, as soon as both TR beams are gone, you're dead. You have phasers. That's all you got. And it takes you 2 turns just to repair a TR heavy. And it takes 2 more turns to charge it up. So it's 4 turns you have to sit around being a sitting duck. So no, don't work. Doesn't work at all. Hellbores, the 3 points damage. The interesting part about that, of course, is going to be here, which is the damage procedures, and which is when it comes to the Hellbores. Hellbores are based off of how many shields, lesser shields, that you have. Let's say that you have 3 equal shields, that are of lesser damage. Like let's say undamaged shield for a normal, like D7 or tournament D7. I don't know the original D7 had a very weak aft shield, and oh darn it, I forget which. It was in a captain's log that told about the story of a captain. The first time that the Klingons ran into the Hellbore, and they said, "Oh, I remember mentioning it." The one remark was, the captain's coming in. It's like, oh, what about our aft shield? They get behind us. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll destroy them. And of course, they come in and they get blown up because of the Hellbores. They fire the Hellbores and then they blows them up, or severely damage them. So they basically lose at that point because of it comes in the rear shield and that. Because it's one shield, that means half of the damage from the Hellbore goes in that one shield. And if you have 3 shields, then it's going to be 3/4 damage because it's the number of shields, and then you add +1, and that's what you get. So it's 3/4, 1/2, 3/4, 2/3. Thank you, Chris. You mentioned. The story that I was thinking about was Captain's Log number 4, Where Wisdom Fails, which is I thought it was to me it was a good story because if I recall correctly from the story, and this has been many years, but I think I remember at least the general gist, which is there was actually two Klingon ships. And the first ship, it got blown up, and the first captain, said, I think the tactical officer said, that was something weird. It's green, and I'm not sure what went on, and it blew up, the other ship. It's like, and they said, the weapon really acted weird when it struck the shield, but and he blew it off. And it got destroyed. Well, he must, he must have had the shield facing him down. That kind of thing. He turned the last minute. That kind of thing. Hellbores actually you can actually, what is it called? The imploding detonators. You can actually remove the imploding detonator so that it's only does only half the damage, but it is directly on the shield in front of you. Why would you ever do that? Well, because of if you have equal shields around, you might want an additional help in getting one shield down. Also, Hellbores are interesting in that they don't have. They're one of the weapons that has gets a firing options, meaning that you can fire with the regular weapons, or you can fire. It gets to get fired after all the regular direct fire weapons are fired. Your choice. PBD. Of course, the cool thing about the PBD, of course, is that actually there's 2 things that are interesting about the PBD. One, it has what's called splash damage. And splash damage basically is you hit in this case, okay, they have alternate. The alternate splash damage is when you hit the shield split. Then you use the alternate. But if it's normal weapons hit, then this is for the central one. So if you're facing shield number 1, the 1 and the 1 that hits shield number 6 and shield number 2. And same here, you can see it all around here. Of course, this one's the weird one. This one I don't think I've read. Let's see if it has anything. No, I don't see it say anything about it. Which is this one where it's 1 + 1 + 0. I mean, it does 2 points of damage, but it only the splash is kind of left-handed. It hits the left side, but it doesn't hit the right side. Actually, if you're looking at it from facing the opponent, that means that it would be the left side doesn't get damaged, the right side does. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Oh yeah, Chris. Oops. Forgive me. And of course the PBD also, you fire for lock on, and then for the next 4 impulses, boom, 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 you get hit with a pulse. Now, when you overload, that means you have to be within range 8. You can have it so that it can do up to 6 pulses. Actually, in theory, this is, again, the PBD is like the photon torpedo in that it's variable. You can underload your PPD so it only has 1 shot or 2 shots or 3 shots or all 4. Or you can overload it so you can have 5 shots or 6 shots. It all depends on how much energy you put into the weapon, which of course is always interesting because especially with you don't ever announce how many pulses it is. The person finds out how many pulses it is after it stops pulsing. When you finally lose lock on and stops pulsing. So, which is interesting. I'm going to ignore that. This is, okay. What's this? This is still PBD, I think. Yeah, E11's PBD. Okay, I want to move on to E12, which is webcasters. Now, the webcaster puts out a strand of web. This is a standing web hexes. In other words, it doesn't require an anchor point. When you lay down a web, you have to have 2 anchor points. Dave's mentioning that PBD is another weapon full of bitterness and hate. I agree there. But so which is great, because it puts up, it is a great weapon in that it allows the idea of putting up mobile terrain, to put up terrain that wasn't there to begin with, and then you can fly around that terrain. That's the whole idea of the web itself. Now, okay, let me just look at this real quick because I'm not sure if it's here or it's the next one over, next weapon down, or what. Okay, no, it's not the next weapon down. Okay, oh, there it is. Okay, because you have what's called following web snares, the next one, which is basically take the webcaster and make it really small. Because the whole idea of, I'll read it here real quick, which is the Neanderthalians were able to tell the Thorians a good deal about the technology of the web that had been previously lost. With a considerable amount of effort, the Thorians were able to modify their web generators to function in an extremely limited way as web casters beginning with Y183. This was to provided primarily as a self-defense against drones and plasma torpedoes. In addition, it made hunting cloaked units much easier. And I can understand that. which is basic. You can do as shown here. You can do a 2 hex here, or you can do the 1 or 2 hexes. As 1 hex of 10 points or 2 hexes of 5 points each. So, which is cool. When it gives the Tholians that previously only had web generators, and the web generators, it takes a while for it to lay down the web. You normally wouldn't do that during a turn, during a game. You might, in the case of, you're repairing the webs, and that when it comes to webs, you would actually have you lay down the webs usually around the bases, and what they do is they grab asteroids and make them anchor points. What they would set up at the web, at the base. That's one way of doing it. And of course, if not, then they show also the spiral, which is kind of cool. Again, it's interesting in that you can't go directly in, and you have to follow the death spiral in that case. But more importantly, what I wanted to get on was the E14, which is the web fist, which is you can use a web caster as an actual weapon. A direct fire weapon that basically you fire it with, and the energy that's in the capacitor then gets expelled, and it's like another additional like additional disruptor which you fired upon a ship. So, which is in some cases it's a good thing. For example, if you're fighting against Seltorian can go, oh, nice web, thank you, bing. They fire their web fists. Not web fists. Shield crackers and web breakers. That's it. Took me a moment to remember the weapons. The web breakers, which is basically reduces the strength of a web, which is really a good thing. Of course, I mentioned here the web breaker. If you don't, in the case of Seltorians have web breakers. Now, web breakers can be fired as a web breaker, or it can be fired as a shield cracker. Obviously, shield cracker, the great thing about a shield cracker is that it actually fires at the shield, raising and dropping a shield segment of the impulse, which is neat because it happens before any other weapons fire. So if you want to, and I've never used this because of the idea has merit to a certain degree, but overall if you think about it, it's dumb. And that is, I've heard people have the term of using shield crackers as a shield reinforcement finder. No. What you normally do is you use the shield cracker, the firing of it, as a kind of an announcement that you're planning on firing more. Now, obviously, if you fire 2 of them, here's the thing though. If you fire, let's say you fire 2 of them, and they both hit, and they do it, each one will do 4 points of damage. But given that there are 4 points, you're going to do 8 points of damage. Now the question is, at that point, do you think there's going to be more reinforcement on that shield, or will you more likely go, hey, I just knocked down probably a good bit of his reinforcement, I can still fire my weapons? That's what you'll probably think. And that's the way I usually approach it, is that, if the shield cracker finds that it's hit reinforcement, okay, I just reduced the amount of reinforcement for the rest of my weapons. Now, the downside about shield crackers is that they only do shield damage. They'll knock down reinforcement, they'll knock down shields. They will not do internals, which is sad to a certain degree, in that they take 2 points of arming, and then after that, it's 0 points to hold. So they're a beautiful weapon in that category, especially for the Saltorians. That they also have the particle cannons. The particle cannons for Saltorians are basically they're leaky capacitors. You have to put half the amount of energy into the capacitor to keep it at that level. So if you have, let's say, 4 points of energy in your particle cannon, to hold that 4 points of energy, you have the hold amount is 2. So it's just absolutely insane. Well, actually, Barry just showed up. But more importantly, it's getting late. It's about time to shut down for this evening. Sorry, Barry. Just look at this for a moment. Yeah. Yeah, the wargs, which are interesting, but to say the very least, they can be nasty because you look at them right here. Warg, warp augmented railgun. What an idea! You have a piece of asteroid coming at you at warp speed. Range 0, you can do 20 points of damage. 1 to 5, you can do 17. 6 to 10, you can do 14 points of damage. 11 to 15, 11. And again, it's a 2-hit one. So out to range 10, it's 1 to 5 to hit. Wow. Now, remember there's one thing that's interesting about the Jandarians, and that is the Jandarians usually they hide themselves. Now the wargs, WRGs, are only found on asteroid ships. Now, the reason why they need the punch, this tremendous amount of punch, is because of the idea is that the Jandarians remain hidden in the asteroid field. They don't like conflict if they can avoid it. And usually the wargs are normally used for basically fights within the Jandarians themselves. Though they can also be they'll also use in the case of if they have to fight. Because of the whole idea is that they'll shut down, if you have another empire come in and go looking on the asteroid fields, they'll just kind of shut everything down and just kind of remain quiet. Obviously they're going to have people manning the stations and so forth. But if they can avoid conflict, I know they'll want to. But when it's kind of obvious that it's unable to avoid it, at that point they'll turn on the fire control and blast them. So anyway, yes, Barry. Any last words?
I'm back.
Yeah. Any last words?
I know. It was a call I had to take.
Oh, I'm not fussing. That's fine.
But there was one topic I did want to discuss, maybe. But there's bad echo. Oh well. But in any case, what it was we've always made certain assumptions about Starfleet battles.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you took say a D7 tournament cruiser, and you could replace some or all of the disruptors with P1s.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. If you replace some or all of the disruptors with phaser ones, would that make it more or less effective?
Wow.
Say you replace 2 of the disruptors with P1s.
Right. Understood.
Would that make it more powerful?
Okay. Well, the big thing there would be that obviously the thing is if you have just phasers, or you reduce the number of disruptors, obviously the overall power requirement goes down. So
Yes.
but at the same time, the punch goes down too, because of the maximum amount of damage is 9 points of damage for phaser 1, and that's range 0.
Correct.
So you no longer will have
Max damage for a disruptor is 10.
Right.
That's at range 1.
And here's the thing is, Barry, you also mentioned that this is the Klingon in a tournament cruiser.
Yeah. It could have been any ship.
Yeah, but no. But see, Barry, that makes a big difference if it's a Klingon versus the Lyran. The Lyran.
The Lyran. What happened with the Lyran?
Yeah. Okay, I'll mention why that matters. And that is the UIM, the non-breakdown UIM that the Klingon has.
Okay.
So he has a 1-5 to hit out to range. So he can do like 6 points of damage out to range 8, and a good chance of getting 6 points of damage. Versus a phaser, the same range, is going to do a heck of a lot less. It's going to be a lot. What is it, like 3, 2, 1, 1 or something like that? At range 8. Now, obviously, for the same thing for the Lyran. The Lyran, has the one-time shot for UIM, but so that can be ignored. But the thing is, for the Lyran, again, the great thing about using phasers versus disruptors would be that he'd have more power for his ESG.
Yeah.
Now, again, it reduces obviously the amount of damage that could, and the max damage that could be possibly done. Now, we have to probably run the numbers when it comes to overall average damage to see how much it would decrease or increase.
Oh, the average. I think the average damage would go down, but there's a lot more than just damage.
Oh, understood. Understood.
The other thing is, what would happen if you went to a Fed and replaced some of the photons with phasers?
Mm-hmm. Oh, with the Fed, that would be, to me, that would definitely change the dynamic of the Fed completely. If you replace two of the photons with the phasers, those two photons would always be reinforced. Overloaded. Fully overloaded every single time.
Overloaded. Yeah,
every single time.
And you'd have the speed to catch anybody with overloaded photons.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It'd be closer to an Andromedan overall when it comes to the speed. I feel like.
Yeah.
Because you're maxing out 8 points of overall power for that. And so that, so 8 points plus 4 it's 12. So at that point, you've got around 26 points of power. Is that right? Yeah, 26 points of power for whatever else you want to do with it, which is pretty good.
And you could hit more often. You could hit more often and stay close to somebody.
Yep, agreed. Because all you have to do is think about. Barry, I'm not sure you ever ran in. Like, you probably didn't run into it because I don't remember you ever playing SFB by email. This was back in the CompuServe days. And that is that back in those days, Steve Petrick did something stupid. At Origins, he agreed on a change to the Saltorian without any play test. And
10 phaser ones?
10 phaser ones, that one. Had 4 particle cannons, 2 shield crackers, web breakers, shield crackers, and 10 phaser ones. And it just was so overpowering. It was incredible.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I remember it so vividly is because I had to play a game with it. I was in Andromeda against the Saltorian, and he freaking blew my butt out of the sky.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Chris, we're just talking about the tournament cruisers. That's what we've been talking about. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think the whole idea of changing out the some of the heavy weapons for phaser ones is quite interesting. Now, I know there's a couple of them that you would never ever do. For example, you'd never switch out a Hellbore for a phaser one, never, or a TR beam, a TR beam, a heavy TRH, heavy TR beam for a phaser one. You would never do that.
True.
You got, now replacing a fusion beam with a phaser one, I can see that. Now, obviously, you're losing quite a bit of firepower, for your close-in attacks.
Well.
Yeah, but it changes the dynamic of the ship completely.
Orions can put fusion beams in the side.
Yep, in the wings.
Option mounts, right?
Yep.
In the wings.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many people use the fusions versus the phaser ones?
Not that many. The reason usually you put a fusion beam, like one fusion beam in the wing, unless you're going for the what do they call it? There's one that where you actually put
is to protect another.
Yeah, usually to protect like a photon or the photons, usually. Like a photon and maybe two Hellbores, and you have a fusion and at least one
now,
fusion.
The Orion's
and a drone rack.
The Orion's a special case because the Orion has so much more power than other
Right,
ships.
and of course with the Orion you do have the crate killer, which is you put all phasers, completely the phaser mode, with one phaser G and the rest of them phaser ones.
Yeah.
And of course it has all the reinforcement, all the power, so it can kill you. Yeah. And it doesn't even need to double its engines because of the amount of power that's required to fire. You don't need it. Against the Andromeda, what you do, the only reason you double your engines is just so that one, you have the power, have the shield reinforcement, and two, you have the ability to chase the Andromedan down and hunt it down like the dog it is.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Just saying that if I were going to min-max a cruiser, and I was a Federation ship designer, and I said, okay, we're going to min-max this because that's what you're going to do. Would it make more sense? I remember reading a book where they had some sailing ships, and the first thought was, we'll put as many cannons on these ships as we can. And then some of the ship designers said, if we take a few of the cannons out, we'll actually be better off because with the increased spacing per cannon, the crews can get around and reload them faster. And so the firing rate actually goes up. Your broadside went down a little bit, but you can reload faster and fire more often.
Mm-hmm.
And that more than makes up for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And of course, the original design of those ships, the first designs, the cannons were only on the flight on the top deck. It wasn't until they actually, someone created the cannon portals, that they could open up when they're fighting, and close them that they actually had,
Yeah.
cannons lowered down, which is better because of the whole center of gravity for the ship changes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, anyhow,
Weight of metal.
yep. Okay, well,
Yeah, you need to go.
Yes, I do, because it's coming up on 11 o'clock, and 11 o'clock my time, and I have to get some sleep. I still have to put this thing together, so I'll probably go to bed around 11:30 midnight at the moment. So,
Well, I do have to get at 3 a.m. So, but yeah, I am in California. That does help.
yes, it does.
Good hearing from you.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it next week or not. Probably not.
Okay,
But
that is fine.
sure.
That is fine. So, you enjoy your time with your daughter.
I will.
Okay, see ya.
All right. See you. Good night.
And yes, he was in the middle of cooking. Anyhow, with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.